Welcome to the Vera show where testimony, reality and truth meet you at the front door. Perspective to propose. Politics, religion, we talk about the real world we live in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it on the Vera show. From purpose, uplift, encourage, inspire, motivate, and let's talk about it on the Vera show. The Vera show.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited today. I have with me Robert Butwin, and let me share a little bit about him. Robert Butwin is, well, first let me ask, how are you doing today?
You know, whenever I'm in your presence, how can I be anything but awesome?
Oh, thank you. That is just so wonderful. And I feel the same way about you. You're just a wonderful person that I am just elated to have met, and we're networking and doing things. And I just thank God for you. I really, really do. Robert Butwin is a best-selling author, international speaker, elite networker, strategist, and super connector who is known for helping entrepreneurs turn meaningful relationships into profitable opportunities. He is the author of Street Smart Networking and Street Smart Success, Networking That Fuels Business, who has spent decades teaching business leaders how to create powerful connections, uncover hidden opportunities, and accelerate success through strategic collaboration. He has not worked a job. Listen to this. He has not worked a job since September 7th, 1990, and is psychologically, I love this, psychologically unemployable, living the life most people dream of based on the money he has earned. His life purpose is to help more entrepreneurs accelerate their impact by drawing on his wisdom and experience. And I am honored to be able to glean from your wisdom. And it is my desire that this show will uplift, encourage, motivate, inspire, and educate those that listen now and those that listen to the replay. And with that, I am going to give you the floor and let you share with us, what was your childhood like? How did it impact you? And what has been your journey?
Well, the two greatest things that I remember in my childhood was the ability to make money and to travel. So let's look at making money as far back as I can remember, and I'll tell you a story. I was I had paper routes. I grew up in Minnesota, shoveled snow, cut grass, caddied at a country club, and um, one of the experiences with my parents, because I was caddying, I was more interested in making money, and they wanted me to go out and play golf. They love playing golf. So they forbid me to caddy. I had a fight with them back then, locked myself in the door. My dad busted down the door, dragged me to the golf course, started playing golf. So I've
Oh my
always,
goodness.
you know, I like making money, as far back. And I still, even though I don't, I mean, it's all about attracting and creating it. But yes, and my parents loved to travel. Our family was one of the forerunners in the high school award chili jacket business. 1938, they opened that. They started that business. My grandfather, he died at an early age, and so my dad ended up taking over that business when he was 21, 22 years old. So my vision was to always run the family business. Their problem was too much family business. But back to the childhood, ultimately, we traveled. Back when I was younger, we would go to Florida. Um, being in Minnesota, we got away from the snow when it snowed during the winter. So I always enjoyed traveling. I enjoyed making money. I knew that if I wanted to create the kind of life originally that I wanted to live, it takes money to enjoy
Yes.
the things that you want. But at that point, I didn't know any better. And ultimately, as I experienced, and just to give you a couple other of the jobs I had, there were always things that I enjoyed. They were fun. It was like I was working without working. I was a singing waiter, for those of you that might remember this, at Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor. Now, the manager says don't sing, just mouth the words, but whatever. I've always I ran a booth at the state fair, and it was the guy that the booth I ran, he had like 30 different booths. I was always in number one. In sports, I was always great at attracting people. I loved to watch sporting teams. I not when my son was growing up, he got into sports, so I started collecting sports memorabilia. For those of you who can see my background, I've got a couple signed jerseys of Bill Russell, people that were, excelled. I felt that it would rub off by osmosis. So I've got Bill Russell, Michael Jordan on my left. I've got Wayne Gretzky behind my shoulder, which you can't see. I've got Tom Brady and Yogi Berra. Russell and Boyd got the most rings in their sports for championship. So as far as, what my childhood was like, I came to the realization there was too much family in our family business. And, I was listening to a tape from a person. And once I realized I had to get out of the family business because, they weren't willing to make the necessary changes that you need to make, especially with, what happens in business. And so I knew that ultimately I had to, leave the family business. And a guy ultimately, and the reason I know the date of September 7th so well, I was listening to a guy speak, and he says, think about what it would feel like if you could walk into your boss's office, put your feet up on the desk, pull out a cigar, light the cigar, and tell him you can no longer afford to work there. Well, that date was September 7th, 1990. That was the last
Wow.
time I ever had a job. And part of the reason and how that happened is I started realizing, you could figure out, other ways to make money. And as I was trying to get out of the family business, and part of what I was mentioning to you, Vera, I ended up running a nightclub. And I didn't own the nightclub. The previous owner just sabotaged it. It was it was decked out. It was back in the disco era, back in 1979, 1980. And so he had sabotaged his success. The stories of how I ended up, but the nightclub ultimately had Morris Day was playing in it before he became who he was. As far as what I was also telling you, I love to play sports. Coming out of Minnesota, you had Terry Lewis, Jerome Benton, Jimmy Jams. For those of you that might not recognize those names, they are A-list musicians with the times. So, but again, that's not where I found my freedom. I found my freedom in what people refer to as network marketing, as figuring out how I could create a second way of making money, multiple streams of income that would give me enough money to be able to have the freedom, the flexibility that would allow me to create the kind of life that I really wanted.
That is absolutely beautiful. And now, network marketing, there are a lot of people that try it and they just don't succeed with it. And so I know you have secrets. And today we're talking about possibilities for prosperity. And so from the time that you were a child, you just had this in your blood, it was in your system to make money.
It was. And that, I mean, and part of it, and let me, when I walked away from the nightclub because I didn't realize it was for sale, and this is a unique part of, but because there's a couple other key points, but yes, I've always had it in my blood. I wanted to make money. I wanted to have that kind of lifestyle of what if you had the money, but ultimately money wasn't the key thing. But as the nightclub was taken over, was sold, and if I would have known that it was for sale, I'd have bought it. But that was probably one of my biggest breaks in my life, because shortly thereafter, I was always curious. And, I don't want to say this braggadocious, but before, as I was running the nightclub, obviously I had a lot of opportunities to interact with women, dated a fair amount of women. So I was curious because I believe a lot of things in life happen with synchronicity. I was curious who would ever need to put an ad in. This was before there was online dating.
Right.
So I put an ad in, and ultimately the person that I met, I'm still hanging out with her 43 years in August. We've been married 41 years, but it's part of synchronicity. It's like, what if, those what ifs that you ask yourself, and sometimes you just got to get up and take it. And it's part of the key is how one person that you might meet, be it in a networking event, an ad in the paper, can have a significant positive impact. See, part of my key was the year 1984. And part of the reason why I will always remember that, first of all, that was the year that I met the lady that I married to. But in 1983, I graduated from the University of Minnesota. And you can go back and look at the Minnesota Gophers football team. They had zero wins, all the rest losses in their conference. And one of the guys that was a 70-year friend of our family, because there's what I called indirect mentoring. And I looked at him as a role model. He was able, with his ability through networking, to bring in Lou Holtz, who was one of the prestige college coaches at the time. I think before he might have coached in the pros, but brought into the University of Minnesota. The following year, they won 4 games. The following year, they ended up going to a bowl game. But through networking, and one of his key books, and he's written 8 books, seven of them are New York Times bestsellers. But the key one from networking is dig your well before you're thirsty. And so I saw the power of networking. I saw the power that if I just get out and develop meaningful relationships.
Yes.
When you think of it, that's how you and I met, through a networking, that synchronistic kind of thing. We're just out there, connecting with people.
Yes. Networking is so critical. And as a result of meeting you and networking, my show is filled with guests through October. And this is the first time that's ever happened to me. And that's because of you. And so when you talk about networking, and I know you've won awards and have been highly recognized for networking, and I know like your business is called Strategies. Let me pull this up. It's called Success Strategies, simple strategies that work. So let's talk about and expound upon some of those strategies. And I'm sure some of them may even be mentioned in your book.
Definitely. You know, what I've learned about networking is a bridge to creating the kind of impact you aspire to accomplish, whatever that is. It's all based on developing the right relationships. There's many, I mean, obviously things have significantly changed since I started in 1984. But one of the things I say today and will continually say it is I believe without a doubt it's easier to become successful today than any other time in history. Now, part of the key to success is luck. And some of you will say, well, wait, what does that mean? Well, for those of you that don't know me very well yet, I love acronyms. And the acronym for luck is laboring under correct knowledge. So, you know, if you consistently focus on, you know, meeting people. And so when I started off, and let's go back to my journey, you know, once I realized I had to figure out, because when I knew I had to become an entrepreneur, I knew I didn't know what I needed to do ultimately to do it. So I started, you know, all of a sudden going back to synchronicity, I came across a cassette tape series, for those of you that remember what a cassette tape was, by Wayne Dyer.
Oh, I love Wayne Dyer.
Yeah. And he talked about being a no limit person. And so I had to realize I had to take responsibility for what is so I could take it for what would be. And so I started pouring a lot of information into my mind because I knew that I had to shift my mindset. I had to gain that entrepreneur. So I started reading books, listening to cassette tapes. You know, people like Jim Rohn, he said, if people believe the promise, they'll pay the price. Meaning the fact of, you know, the promise that I can create the kind of freedom I wanted by the price of working hard on myself. Because if you work in a job, you're working on somebody else's dream. I had to improve my skill sets. So I continually focused on creating the kind of skills that would allow me to be more attractive, never about myself. I focused on how I can be of service and value to other people. I realized, you know, the whole concept givers gain. I saw that how effective it was. The more that I gave in the right ways, and obviously you want to refine and improve your systems and methodologies. But, you know, and I, you know, that's part of the real key, you know, focus on being of value and service to other people, and knowing, having beliefs, and even when things don't work out, because I had to, you know, improve my skill sets. I remember when I first came back from a conference, and I was supposed to be the one that told everybody, because I was the only person in the area that went to the conference. I had to tell everybody what I learned. And so I come back, the guy introduced me sort of like how you introduced me. And in the first 30 seconds, my knees buckled, my eyes were back in the head, and I had to be dragged off a stage. And so my
I know
wife,
it's not funny, but I can relate to that.
It's a growing experience. My wife put me out to Toastmasters. I had to improve my skill sets. Again, I realized for things to change, I needed to change. I needed to make the certain changes necessary so that I, you know, could accomplish what I wanted. I remember at the time I was ultimately, we weren't married yet, but I was walking with the lady that I ended up marrying, and we were walking across from where she lived. And I turned to her and I said, there's nothing or nobody that's going to stop me from succeeding. I was clear on my intention. At the time, she thought that was her, but it wasn't. I mean, you know I would not have created the success that I have created if it wasn't for her. My mother was a narcissist, but I've also realized everything in life is there for a reason. My dad's mother was a very controlling lady, also not a narcissist, but she wanted to make sure everybody, you know, that all of her springs would, that there was no favoritism, even though my dad was running the company. And so I take a look at how did that serve me as it relates today, to where I'm at, because, um, you know, my whole focus is, being where it is the fact that I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to create that kind of lifestyle. So, but it's about developing the right relationships.
And you know what? I want to backtrack to the narcissism.
Sure.
As a child being raised by a narcissist,
Hmm.
how did that impact you? Because narcissism is a major issue that's impacting the lives of children. So, how did that impact you having a parent that was narcissistic? And there are different levels of narcissism and different types of narcissism. So, which type was she, and how did it impact on you?
First of all, I don't know about any of the types, so I'll just tell you how it impacted me.
Okay.
She used to tell her kids how she was a damn good mother. I had three younger brothers. Only one out of the four would agree with her. I mean, I used to, when I was younger and I didn't know any better, I would say to myself, she's doing the best she could. I know that she loves me. I saw the flaws, be it my intuition, intuitiveness, whatever my woo-ness, whatever you want to look at it, however you want to look at it. But I mean, we're all very intuitive beings. And
Yes.
so, and that's why when I met the lady that I ended up marrying, she was 100% opposite, caring, giving, intelligent, really cares about people. So that's part of how it really impacted me, because I needed, I wanted to find somebody that had strengths where I was weak and I had strengths where she was weak. And we
Mm-hmm.
make an amazing couple, because I bought the t-shirt "Happy Wife, Happy Life," and there's really a lot of truth in that. But it's the same thing with relationships. It's
Yes.
the synergy of relationships. 1+1 doesn't equal two. It equals something much greater when you've got somebody that's got this vision that's going to lock arms with you and that's got similar values and wants to make a difference.
And that is so important. And, we may be veering away a little, but I'm feeling led to kind of talk about this because we have so many dysfunctional relationships. And one of the things that you notice, you knew what you did not want. And so it was very important to you to really hone in on the type of person that you did want. And as a result of that, you found it, and it's here to stay. When you've got that support, that encouragement, that side by side working together and supporting and encouraging each other. And what advice can you give couples who are considering marriage, and then couples who are, but it's not exactly all that it could be, but they love each other?
Well, be it couples in marriage or even couples in business, relationships in business. Remember, the root of the word relationship is relate. You're always dealing with perception. You don't want to major in the minors. To me, everything's a minor. It's like, why get caught up? I mean, everybody, even when we talk about MLM, you're dealing with perception. The root of the word perception is precepts. It's their fixed idea. If it's taking the time, it's, peeling that onion back so that you really understand to make sure it's the right match, because you want to have that committed, and have a relationship that's going to stand, not for a year or two, but it's, I'm
The test.
100% committed to my wife, and so it's developing and, understand the values, understand the purpose. We just, it's, one time I was sitting with another couple and they says, do you and do you and Bonnie, her name's Bonnie, do you and Bonnie ever fight? And I said, no, we never fight. And Bonnie turns to me, she says, where have you been?
Okay, so expound.
I never looked at it as a fight. I mean, there's, again, don't major in the minors. There's disagreements. I mean, obviously, as an entrepreneur,
Yes.
I went through some peaks and valleys, no question. In fact, ultimately, on our first date, I showed up. I wasn't really anticipating. I met her. I mentioned in the Twin City Reader. So I called her up. I said, let's get together. I said, what would you like to do? Or she said she's going to go to the Parade of Homes where people are showing. So I just showed up in the car. And at the time I was in the Valley. And so I showed up in the car. I had my baseball shorts on, my bike shorts. And at the time I've got, I was wearing a $20 gold piece. I had this gold ring with diamonds around it and a horseshoe in the middle. And I was talking about where I was going to go, and she was seeing this incongruency. And so in the first 45 minutes, she came to the realization she was never going to see me again. Thank goodness the date lasted more than 45 minutes. And what I did is I flashed her. For those of you that are listening, get your mind out of the gutter. Flashing, she has just taken a body language class. It's, flashing is raising your eyebrows. It's a universal sign saying that you like the person. And so she says, hey, this guy likes me. Maybe I'll, give him a better chance.
Oh my goodness. So she was turned off by the glitter and the hype.
Yeah. The incongruency, the fact
Right.
that I'm talking about where I'm going to go one way or the other. She didn't really care about that. She was much more grounded, and I had this vision of what I wanted to do. Now, over my course, my journey, that's changed. Yes, I've made a lot of money. I don't have to worry about making money. And I was at, one of the networking events by Daniel Rook, a guy named, he goes by Rook.com. Somebody asked him the question, what's the meaning of life? In essence, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but here's what I took away from it: to live a life of meaning. And so that really is what I'm about. How can I be a benefit to other people? It's like we all have two B-days, a birthday and a box day. In between, there's a dash. It's that life experience. And, you can't take it with you. So since you can't take it with you, it's like, what's the meaning of life? How you can be of value to other people. Now, as I say that, you've got to understand your boundaries. You don't want to allow people to take advantage of your graciousness. So you need to understand at a certain point where, based on whatever you're doing, you've got to be able to draw lines. But my whole purpose, as far as what I do, is to share my insights and perspectives in a way when it's appropriate that will allow other people, another acronym that I love, it's if you want to reach the next level in relationship to whatever you're doing, R is your reputation in reach. E is the experience that people have when they're in your presence.
Okay, hold on a minute, because I'm putting this in the chat. So reach.
Yeah, reach, R-E-A-C-H. Reach is your reputation. There are certain people, without mentioning names, their reputation, I won't have anything to do with them. E is the experience that people have when they're in your presence. How do you make people feel? A is authenticity. Today, more than any other time in the world, I think people are looking for authentic relationships.
Yes, absolutely. And so, wait a minute. Reach, experience people have when they're in your presence, and then
A is authenticity.
What is P? Because you said reputation.
No, reach.
Oh, reach. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
So A is authenticity. C is clarity. Were you able to help the other person become more clear? It's like my crystal ball is clear, not crystal clear, but it's clarity. And is your messaging to the person you're speaking with clear? And H, were you helpful And did you give them hope? And the acronym for hope is helping other people elevate.
Oh, I love it. Reach, reach, experience people.
Reputation, experience, authenticity, clarity, and it's H square, helpful and hope. And hope is helping other people elevate.
Wow, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm putting it in the chat so that it stays and people see it. So reach, reputation, experience,
Authenticity,
authenticity. That's what I
clarity.
miss. And authenticity is so critical. You need to be yourself. So many people try to be anything but themselves. And people can spot that a mile away. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then clarity. And I spelled it wrong. Okay.
And then helpful / hope. 2 H's. Were you helpful? If you focus on being helpful, again, most people think me, me, me. If you flip the M's upside down, it's we, we, we. I'm all about synergy of people working together.
Yes. Yes, you have that heart.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put this right here. Reach, reputation, experience people have when they are in your presence, authenticity, clarity, and helpful hope, giving people hope.
That's correct.
Now, let me ask you, because we're going through some difficult times right now, and a lot of people feel hopeless. Hope. What was the acronym? What does that stand for again?
Helping other people elevate.
Okay. Now, speak to what's happening now, and let's give some sense of hope to people, because I was listening to something earlier today, a medical interview, and they were talking about how people are so stressed out that it's really making them sick. So being able to give some sense of hope as we're looking at possibilities for prosperity, what can you say to that?
Sure. First of all, when I was looking to walk away from our family business, I was stressed. And one of the books that I read was by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And the key, and I like fear, and the acronym to me of fear is face everything and rise. So if you face it, and ultimately it will pass. So part of the key of possibilities, and I went through what was originally IBI that became CEO Space, and they talked about multiple streams of income. And I think you've picked up, I like acronyms. So I've got an acronym for multiple streams of income. And that's SCALP, SCALP.
Wait a minute, you're moving too fast, because right now, because where fear is concerned, I've always heard false evidence appearing real.
No, face
but I like
everything.
this better. Face everything and rise.
Correct.
Face everything and rise. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. And vote. Okay. Now the acronym for.
Yeah. And let's, first of all, if you're carrying around, and then we'll go to the acronym for multiple streams of income. If you're carrying around too much baggage, it's going to have an impact in the altitude of whatever it is that you want to create. So you've got to be able to release it. And there's many different technologies, and there's many different places where you can find it. And if you have any question about it, you can just go to AI, whichever one, or Google, how to get rid of the stress. I mean, certain people, they want to just play this victim role, and that's okay. But you can't do it too long. Jim Rohn talks about, and I like to quote a lot of, or things that I learned from Jim Rohn. He says you walk out in the fields in the summer and you look at your crops, and all you want to say is grow crops, grow, because they're not growing. But the point is you've got to take responsibility to creating the kind of lifestyle. You can't play victim. You want to play victor. So sooner or later, another analogy he gives is reasonable results in results in a reasonable period of time. He asks the question, how long would you want your son or daughter to be in first grade? He says 1 year is enough. That's why they make the desks so small. The bottom line is, you only want to stay stagnant for so long. You don't want to be the victim. You want to be the victor. So it's once you become aware of the reality, and that's what, the Wayne Dyer cassette tape series taught me. I needed to take responsibility for the life I wanted, and I didn't know how. I just knew that if other people could be successful, I could also. And so I had to dive in and, start figuring out, learning, changing my mindset, improving my skills. So again, you've got to get into action. The key of the law of attraction is the actions necessary. And you can always refine your actions accordingly. But you've got to stay focused on that vision of what you want to live.
Yes. And if you're focused on what it is you're trying to do, actually it can help relieve stress. The thing is, stress is not the stress, because there's good stress and there's bad stress, and the bad stress is the stress that makes us sick. And it's not so much the stress that makes us sick, it's how we relate and respond to stress that causes us to be sick. It's the dis-ease in our bodies that cause the disease medically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And part of it goes back to what we talked about, luck. It's labored under correct knowledge. It's like when I started my journey, and then we'll go multiple streams of income. When I started my journey, I was watching a guy in 60 Minutes, and I'm going to paraphrase what I thought I heard him say. He says, I work for a food company, and my job is to make the foods addictive. Why you can't eat one. So I realized, because my dad had a heart attack at a younger age. His dad died of a heart attack. Now, I'm older than he was when he died and my grandfather died. But I realized that there's a relationship with what you put in your body and mind.
Yes. And people don't understand the foods that we're eating, they're killing us. Exactly. And I look at a chicken breast that's the size of a turkey breast, and I'm like, oh my God. And that's what we're putting into our bodies.
Right. I started to realize, a lot of the food system, they want to grow the chicken faster. They're doing it artificially with hormones, a lot of them. There's a lot of different things. You got to become more conscious and aware of the negative things you're putting in your body and do less. Same with your mind and the people you hang around with.
Yeah.
So let's because a good friend of mine used to say, some people you can spend 2 minutes with, but not 2 hours. Other people 2 hours, but not 2 days. You've got to. You want to associate with people that are interested in going in the same direction.
Yes. I used to tell my son all the time, association breeds assimilation, and we become what we are around. And so the possibilities of prosperity includes the people you're hanging around, the people that you look up to, the people that can lift you, encourage you, and that you can do the same for them, because it should be a two-way street. You can't just always expect to get, and not be willing to give,
Totally. Everything that I do is based on collaboration and reciprocity. But it starts off by me giving, positioning myself as that trusted advisor, make sure that I consistently do it. So we keep dodging the thing about multiple streams of income.
Right. I got it. Okay, I'm ready.
Well, Scalp, the first is you're speaking now. As I'm talking about the first part of it, you've got to remember, do you have a long tail or a short tail? Meaning, if there's many people that are used to getting, speaking and getting paid immediately. Sometimes your strategy is the fact that it's, I'm speaking to do, to use it as part of my funnel, or pipeline, so that I can develop more people. The C is your coaching or consulting business. Again, long tail or short tail. I offer mentoring at no cost, but there's parameters around that, because I don't want to be working for money. I'd rather work based on collaboration. A is affiliate income. I've got certain things that I do make money by guiding people, but for me, and one of the guys that I'm very close and work with is Tom Gay. He said relationship currency is more important than cash to him, and I look at it the same way. But I do have affiliate income. L, leveraging resources. This is where network marketing, multi-level marketing comes in. That's where I made millions of dollars, because think about it. And again, the biggest thing you're always dealing with is people's perception. The MLM company, and it's changed with technology. They've got products that we can recommend and promote. It's not about selling. The key in relationship, no matter what I'm looking to influence somebody on, if I do my job of educating you accordingly, then the influence process becomes very easy. And a book that I highly recommend for people that are looking to become more effective is the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. He's written 2 books, Influence and Pre-Persuasion, because the key, if we educate people, the influencing process really becomes easy. So
you said Robert
Cialdini. It's called Influence, and he wrote another book called Pre-Persuasion. I used to be on stages with a lot of the people that were in the personal growth and the persuasion field. The people in the personal growth field would always point to the book Think and Grow Rich. The people in the persuasion would always point to that as their Bible, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, but going back to leveraging resources, it's not about selling products. And yes, MLM has somewhat of a bad rap for a variety of different reasons, but that's because they don't really understand it. Really what it is, it's an affiliate program on steroids. Most people just will become wholesale buyers. And for the people that understand the business, and again, it's changed over the years, they have a business that they can offer other people, and I've got a vested interest to help them become successful in anything and everything else that they do. The MLM is just a stream of income. Mm-hmm. It's where, I continually say, and will continually say, that people really understand it. They would find the right mentor, the right support system, products that will, help people change their life-changing products.
Yes.
And so anyhow, that's the L. And there's other examples of that. Real estate's another example. I mean, there's many, examples. If you've got a product, you've got affiliates that are representing you, that's a leverage resource. The resource is your product, and you've got other people, but there's different examples of leverage resources. And P is the passive income. That's where your money's making money for you. When I was making a lot of money, I invested heavily in silver, gold, and dividend-paying blue chip stocks.
Now this is the acronym. I had put scale, but it's not scale.
No, it's scalp. Like
scalp. Oh.
Yeah. Speaking, coaching, affiliate, leverage resources, and P is your passive.
Okay, got it. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm putting that up here too. And I want to put the book that you mentioned, I want to put that in here too. It's called Influence by
Robert Cialdini.
Is that with a C or an S?
Yeah.
Chaldine or I?
I.
Okay.
Chal. I'm not sure how he spells it. My wife is a speller, and now I've got Grammarly.
I hear you. Okay. Well, we'll put it that way. If they look for the book, they'll find. Look for Influence, they'll find it.
by Robert C.
And I spelled that wrong. Robert. Okay. All right. All right. This is awesome. So people need to understand network marketing is primarily just one of those leveraging, one of the ways of leveraging and passive income as well.
Yeah, right. I mean, the companies, they've got the computer systems, they've got everything one way or the other. You're always, anytime you're communicating, you're dealing with perception. The other person's perception is their reality. It's how you shift perception based on taking the time to understand what their perception is based on whatever messaging that whatever I'm trying to communicate, and then helping them see things the way I know it to be, as long as they're somewhat open. But you never want to push, if their beliefs are that in ground. But remember, in the middle of the word belief is the word lie.
Ooh,
In the
that's
middle of the word
deep.
belief, yes. The point is, which of your beliefs are holding you back?
Wow. Now that's
you know,
heavy. In the middle of belief is wow. That's profound. That is profound.
yeah.
Wow. So wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's all I can say is wow. Because that's profound. That's profound. That's like half of life itself is if,
You,
the
you've got to
middle.
know there. You forgot, yeah, in the word spelling,
Oh,
BELIEF.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. Okay. I need on my glasses because I can't have C.
I know. I never wore glasses, but now I've got to see a little bit better.
Yes. Okay. Belief.
BELIEF.
Yes. Yes.
So
Okay.
the part of the key, and you hear people setting goals or whatever, and they said, "I will be successful. I will whatever." The two most powerful words is "I am." You've got to claim it now. I am
Yes.
prosperous. I am a successful person.
Affirmations.
I am a leader, not "I will be." Because if you will be, you will always be in the state of being. You want to claim it now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the other key is the what ifs, and I could give you a bunch of what ifs. I created a list of what if questions, and I'm happy to put them in the chat if you want for you,
Okay.
because
All right.
again,
Yes.
it goes back to what you talked about. I believe without a doubt that it's easier to become successful, but again, it's releasing the things that are holding you back. There's many different ways to do it, and I will put my what if questions that I came up with, and you can even read them if you want. Because
Okay. I would love to. You're putting them in the private chat?
I'm going to put them in the private chat, and then I'll let you read them.
Okay.
Of what
That's
I came up with.
awesome. Okay. That's awesome. You had said something else that I was thinking about, and I'm having a senior moment. Okay. Let
Do you
me
want me to
put,
read it?
yeah, why don't we take turns? You read one and I'll read the other.
What if I am capable of far more than I have allowed myself to believe?
What if the life I want requires me to become a different version of myself?
What if my current habits are quietly creating my future results?
What if the people I spend the most time with are shaping my income, confidence, attitude, and opportunities?
What if I stopped letting fear make my decisions for me?
What if what if my comfort zone is costing me the success I say I want?
What if I'm focused less on being impressive and more on being valuable?
Oh, I love that. What if I stop waiting for the right moment to begin?
What if I treated my health, time, relationships, and reputation as my most important asset?
What if I never took responsibility for the outcomes in my life?
What if I reached the end of my life having never really tried?
What if the relationship I need most is only one conversation away?
What if 1 year from now I'm living the consequences of the choices I make today?
Oh man. And this is awesome. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put each one of these questions separately in the chat for people to think about. This is something to think about. What if we took these questions and answered them honestly and openly, and no one else has to hear what your answers are, but this is for you to answer for yourself, to help you recognize and understand that oftentimes we are our worst enemies. We keep ourselves from moving forward. We allow other people to dictate and determine who we are, whose we are, and what we're going to do. So, what if?
Yeah. Mine is, what if I never put that ad in the personals and
What?
I met the lady that I married?
I hear you.
Yeah.
What if you had not done that? What if? What do you think your life would be
Exactly.
like right now? What do you think?
What, I don't even
You
want to. Or what if I never decided to leave my family business, the security of that, or what I thought was secure? And it's a couple quick caveats. 5 years after I left our family business, they went out of business. 5 years after I walked away from the nightclub, they went out of business. I was on the board of directors of a company called Amazon Herb, who married Olivia Newton-John. And approximately 5 years after I walked away from that, he sold his company and it basically went out of business.
Wow. So you know what? Your life was by design. You realize that, right? There's a scripture that says, I knew you before you were born. And also, I know the plans I have for you. And the thing is, you talked about intuition. You allowed your intuition, which in my opinion, that's the spirit, that inner spirit within us. You allowed that to drive you, dictate to you, and allowed you to make decisions based on your gut, right?
Yes, totally. It's like I tell people, I'm approximately 10 to 15% that. The other part is grounded in wisdom and experience. So it's a combination.
Yes. Yes. Well, Robert, you have given some great nuggets here. And I'm putting these things in the chat. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to give you the floor and let you just keep talking, okay?
Any and all the time that I can actually talk, and part of my mindset was if others could do it, so could I. I didn't know how, but I knew that, you know, the hows would, I would figure that out one way or the other. But a lot of it is associating and developing relationships with the right people. Today with AI, technology, how it's evolved, that's part of the reason why I believe it's easier to become easier to become successful than any other time. But you've got to get out and do the actions, develop the relationship. You know, if you are in action, you're going to learn from, the things that don't go right. Again, it's how you process whatever happens. Stay focused on your vision. Align yourself with the right people, and if they're not the right people, release those people. You can't accomplish, or the chances of accomplishing what you really want, if you're carrying around too much baggage, too much, the wrong people, whatever you're holding on to, you've got to be able to release it. Life is there to serve us. One of the things that I think it was Dr. Robert Anthony, one of the cassette tapes that I listened to way back when, he said, there's certain lessons we're supposed to learn. And until you learn that lesson, life will continually trip you up in that lesson.
Yes.
Yeah. So you just stay focused on making a difference. Again, you're only going to live, as far as I know, we're only going to be here at one time. And there's an old parable about the starfish thrower. If you consistently focus on how you can be of value to other people, how you can share insights, share wisdoms, share whatever it is in a way that will help other people recognize, because, many people are more than they become. They've allowed themselves to settle. And
Yes.
yeah. So that's a lot of what drives me, the vision, wanting to live a life of meaning. And, at least whenever my last day, when I take my last breath, I will know that I lived a life that was worth living, because I focused on being of value to people.
Yes. And one of the things, and you're an example of this, sometimes we may have to leave our families, leave people that are close to us in order for us to move forward. And sometimes that's hard to do.
I had to do that. We've got one brother that the other three brothers don't ever talk to, because he really took advantage of one way or the other. And there's, without going into that, but yes, sometimes be it your family, you've got to leave them behind. It is what it is.
Yes. And that's, it is what it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and I love this one. What if I never took responsibility for the outcomes of my life? So many people, grown adults, refuse to take responsibility for the outcomes of their lives based on the choices that they make. And
Yeah.
then they want to blame other people instead of taking responsibility themselves.
Yeah. They're in a state of denial. One more acronym: don't even notice. I am lying. By not
Wait a
taking
minute. It's an acronym. What's the word again?
denial.
Denial. Okay, let me put that in here. Okay. And what does it stand for?
Don't even notice. I am lying.
Lying. Okay. I
They're
am.
lying. They're lying to themselves by not taking
Yes.
responsibility. Yeah,
Yes. Yes. And if parents do nothing else, they need to teach their kids how to accept responsibility.
yeah.
That is just so important. Well, I have these things on here, and audience, as you can see, Robert is full of wisdom, he's full of insights, and he's full of acronyms. And you can connect with him on, I'm going to put on my glasses so I can see what I'm saying. You can connect with him at butwin@gmail.com. And that's Butwin, B as in boy, U as in umbrella, T as in Tom, W, I as in indigo, N as in Nancy, at gmail.com. Or you can hit him up on LinkedIn. Just go to LinkedIn Robert Butwin. And if you want to set up an appointment with him, you can go to his calendly.com/Butwin. I strongly encourage you to be in touch with him. He's full of wisdom and he has a heart. He has a heart. He really wants to help other people realize the possibilities for prosperity. It has been an honor having you here today, and you have shared a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and information. And we're out of time, but do you have one more thing you might want to say? Can you believe the time is gone?
I can't. Here's the last thing. My name is Robert Butwin. What I really want you to remember is when you connect with Robert, you'll do nothing but win.
Oh, I love it. Your name fits you. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to pull you down and close us out, but don't leave, okay? All right. This has been an enjoyable show for me. And I am just hoping and praying that those of you that watch it in the replay, that you get as much out of it as I did. And with that, we're coming up on the 4th of July holiday. Be safe and enjoy and just have fun. With that, God bless you, and we will see you next week.
Let's talk about it on the Vera Show.